First question, please give us a brief introduction to your organization and its activities. WEAVE is the short for Women's Education for Advancement and Empowerment. We work weaving people's lives through improved access to capacity building and economic opportunities towards self-sufficiency in order to improve the physical, socio-emotional well-being of refugees and displaced women on the Thai-Myanmar border. We believe that all women, regardless of their status, deserve every opportunity they can get to create a better future for themselves. WEAVE was founded in 1990 as a response to the influx of refugees that arrived in Thailand due to the civil war in Myanmar's ethnic areas. For the last 3 decades now, WEAVE continues its pursuit of advancing the status and dignity of underprivileged and marginalized communities of refugees and indigenous women artisans, their families and communities through fair trade. Education and economic empowerment are the 2 main concentration of our work, which is geared towards equipping these women with relevant and appropriate skills required to combat poverty, address gender inequality, achieving economic self-sufficiency, and contribute in social cohesion and peaceful coexistence. Our enterprise enables communities of refugee women artisans to stay connected with their time-honored tradition and culture by enhancing their skills, ingenuity, and creativity to co-create ethical and responsible handmade products for sustainable inclusion in value chains, engaging refugees to contribute to their host country by preserving the environment through practicing sustainable production practices using natural fibers, natural dyeing techniques, and upcycling of materials, as well as in wealth generation, allows them to break the stereotype that they are burdened. By unlocking their potentials, they become productive and responsible contributors to the development of the community and country where they are hosted as refugees. Moreover, WEAVE extends educational opportunities through programs that provides refugee children safe early childhood learning, preparing them to transition to the next level of their development, and as well as refugee girls and women to access adult and vocational skills learning. WEAVE also supports projects that promotes food security and environmental sustainability through community-based natural resource management initiatives. All of these interventions form part of the preparation for future decisions that refugees will make, whether to stay in Thailand or return to Myanmar. Number 2 question, would you like to give us the case or some examples of how fair trade is promoting the position of economic and social minorities such as women and children who need help? Most definitely. For women, poverty means more than having little or no income. It means lacking control over their income, even in the family. It means missing opportunities because they lack power and voice. It means missing out because they are undercounted, they are undervalued, underserved, and underrepresented. There is no doubt that fair trade has helped women overcome myriad of obstacles, which brings about significant difference in their lives and that of their children and families. Our experience at WEAVE has shown us the enormous potential that fair trade has in allowing refugee women to claim their rights, advance their status and power. While the trajectory is not often straightforward, however, at WEAVE Fair Trade, the enterprise has demonstrated its crucial role in protecting refugee women from exploitative production and market processes. A strong example is on how they are paid fair wages for the work that they do and how they are contributing and ensuring equity and dignity in value chains. Further, as women refugees are involved in gainful work, they become financially independent and have gained greater control over decision making and over their own lives. This brings positive socio-economic contribution to their extended families, their communities, and the country where they reside. And we at Weave have proven it over time, having a 99% refugee women-powered enterprise. Our artisans and producers take great pride of their leadership roles and decision-making in the business trust and direction. Here, I introduce to you Mosome, a Karenni refugee for the last 15 years and the sole breadwinner of her family of 7, including her 5 children and husband who became physically handicapped due to war. The devastation brought about by the conflict had a lasting imprint to Mosome. She experienced state-induced violence while in Burma, and while in the refugee camp, she had to attend to all the needs of her children, as her husband had to be in the front line. For 10 years, she acted both as mother and father to her children while she is dealing with her own personal trauma. In the words of Mosome, "While our lives in the refugee camp is somehow safe, however, it is very difficult with no opportunity to work and the stigma that women are weak and incapable of providing for her family. Life is uncertain and the future is bleak. Where is our dignity? Where is our hope?" In 2012, Mosome joined as a weaver and organized a group of refugee women who were survivors of violence. Together, they used weaving to overcome their depression. Weaving new patterns and designs allow us to see the beauty of our work, of our lives. There is something to look forward to. Mosome is highly respected in her family and community and is now one of our women leaders. She continues to lead in training and in working with women and their households in finding solutions to power relations. In the midst of a serious pandemic, COVID-19 and climate change crisis, which direction do you think should this fair trade campaign go forward? Indeed, COVID-19 has exposed the inequality that exists in our world. It has exposed the gaps in our current value chains. The latest UN report on the performance of Sustainable Development Goals progress in Asia-Pacific showed that of all the 17 SDGs, Target 12 on sustainable consumption and production has regressed. Among other findings, it reported that the region lacks progress on environmental sustainability. As fair trade enterprises, how do we ensure our survival in the time of the pandemic? How do we achieve resilient recovery and move towards a fairer economy? We cannot return back to the old ways of doing business. During this time, all the more fair trade is challenged. We need to further consolidate and ensure that we are working towards a robust fair trade movement. We need to employ innovative business models that puts people and planet first. Fair trade enterprises play a vital role in addressing our global development needs in a sustainable manner using viable revenue-generating models. Enterprises' engagement in sustainable value chains have great potential of transforming the lives of marginalized women, their families, and communities. Thus, in order for fair trade enterprises to further accelerate their impact, they need to be supported in their recovery efforts to build back fairer, ensuring that no one is left behind. In order for fair trade enterprises to further accelerate their impact, they needed to be supported in their recovery efforts to build back fairer, ensuring that no one is left behind. Forming stronger strategic collaborations through ecosystem approach is the way to move forward. The COVID-19 crisis has shown how deep inequalities make society as a whole more vulnerable. The pandemic has seriously disrupted the normalcy of everyone's lives, the economy, and the livelihoods of people. And the impact was massive. In our business alone, we were left without new overseas orders since April up to the present, resulting to an incredible income loss. COVID-19 is an extremely devastating experience for everyone. When the lockdown was imposed in all the 9 refugee camps on the Thai-Myanmar border, it did not only signal stoppage of possible contagion of the virus to the Thai communities, it also posed devastating risk for women and girls in the already fragile and conflict-affected context. It has resulted in disproportionate loss of rights for girls and women. Its side effects include loss of income opportunity, increased domestic violence, and unpaid care burdens. Health risks are especially acute for women living in the refugee camps, places where there is often lack of clean water, sanitation system, and the ability to practice physical distancing. Timely delivery of relief supplies was affected too. However, as is true in any other context, women living in places affected by humanitarian emergencies and conflict are essential leaders in providing response and recovery. And we have proven that in our COVID-19 response. Women's involvement in consultation and decision-making and ensuring that they fully benefit from the appropriate responses is highly critical. Therefore, we must put women and girls at the center of efforts to recover from COVID-19 and any form of disaster and emergencies. Number 4 question. In a time when many people in Thailand are also suffering from COVID pandemic, I would like to ask the difficulties this campaign is facing. Also, please share your story with us. Despite these difficulties, how this campaign is working to overcome this crisis. For example, making mask activity. As early as March, we've, together with other Asian Fair Trade enterprises, collaborated with the regional network WFTO Asia in the design and development of a fair trade COVID response, which started with an immediate intervention, the production of fabric barrier called People's Mask, a mask by the people for the people that is fair trade, design that is laboratory tested, and produced under occupational safety and health standards. The production of the People's Mask and personal protective equipment is a challenge to pivot and to make it accessible to people, as the need to combat COVID-19 is huge. One-third of the Asia members heeded the call. In the case of Weave, the production was collaborated with our fair trade buyers who supported our COVID response and our refugee women artisans and made it accessible to the refugee population. During the time we did not receive international order, our artisans were busy producing masks. We are grateful to the generosity of our fair trade buyers during the pandemic. The social solidarity of the community of fair traders kept our spirits alive. Fair trade buyers opted not to cancel orders, rather offered emergency and relief COVID funds for food for the producers, and as well as in the production of People's Mask. Despite the fact that approximately 500,000 of People's Masks were produced and distributed to people in depressed and disadvantaged communities in India, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Thailand, Nepal, and the Philippines, not to mention a few, yet more is still needed as our battle with COVID-19 is still ongoing. I am extremely honored to have the chance to once again participate at the Jongji Fortnight opening ceremony. I was enormously impressed by the dynamism and fervor that all of you have placed into this activity and highly engaging movement. It is so contagious, and thank you so much for taking this bold leadership. We should be aspiring for a greater impact where fair trade prevails in our new normal. Once again, my most sincere congratulations to all. Jongji, you are worth emulating. We are proud of you.